Hi, everyone. Thank you for being there today for this sadly common theme of how do we foster women in science, but in AI in particular. Hi, Moojan. Tell us a bit about your background, please.
Hello. Thanks for everybody. So I'm the co-founder of Women in AI, and I actually came to France 5 years ago. In Iran, basically, I did an engineering degree, as most of the people in Iran, because we have like 200,000 engineers, and everybody should be engineers or doctors. That's the culture. And then here, I did a business school, and then I started working in banking. Then I left banking. I co-founded my company here. And I started working in tech. I actually started to basically think about why we don't have enough women in AI, and we started Women in AI.
Thank you. Chloé, you're a researcher. Tell us about what you do.
Okay, so I'm a researcher at ParisTech, which is an engineering school, and Institut Curie, which is a cancer research hospital. So I'm part of a team who works on machine learning for cancer research. So we deal with a lot of genetic data, all sorts of genetic data, and cell images, and all this type of rich data you can have in biology to try to understand cancer better and help developing methods for new therapeutic strategies.
Thank you. Isabelle?
So hi, I'm director of the research center of INRIA in Paris. So this is a public research institute. We have around 600 people and a lot of research team, and some of them are in AI. So for example, computer vision, automated vehicles, machine learning, NLP, neuroscience, and so on. So we have a lot of researchers and not so many women.
Tell us exactly, this is my question, how many team do you manage, and how many women permanent researchers are within your teams?
So we have, I think, 36 or 37, I don't remember exactly, teams. And there are around 20% of women, but it's a real difference between levels. So for example, for research director, this is more 15%, and for PhD students, this is 25%. It's not only a question of being promoted, it's a question of age. There were very, very few women 20 years ago. Now this is 25%. It's not that much, but it's grow a little by little.
Thank you. What is your experience, Chloé, because as a researcher and also because you teach, what's your experience with the class you teach?
Yeah, so I did an engineering school. I went to an engineering school myself. So I graduated in 2005. We were 15% women in my class. And I teach a large class of machine learning at Centrale Supélec this year. And there's 15% of women in that class. So I'm not seeing much of a change. And I was actually reading a study yesterday that was saying, that comes out of Geneva, that was saying that in computer science, there's actually a decrease in the number of women who get degrees in computer science. I haven't read it carefully, but this doesn't seem to improve.
Okay, so as the rest of science, we are very far from 50-50, and we have a problem. But why is it a specific problem in AI, especially in designing systems and products that could foster diversity or not? What do you think, Chloé?
So I'm not entirely sure this is a problem specific to AI, but it's clear to me that when you don't have diversity among the people who create programs, who create products, then you might be more biased and not even realize it. So there's this concern that, especially in AI, that because we rely on data that might be biased, if the people who are using this data do not think about the ways in which it can be biased, then there can be biases in the resulting algorithms. So there's this example of the bots from various very visible companies that end up saying racist things on the internet. I'm not entirely sure this is limited to AI. So one example is, so recently Snapchat proposed this new feature where if your GPS was turned on, Snapchat was letting people know where you are. And men had this had rather positive reaction to this, and many women started complaining that they were afraid they were going to be stalked thanks to this feature. And actually, I think they stopped it, but this is one illustration, and it's not specific to AI.
Moojan, I think you have a funny example too, not in AI, but to show that this problem can be in designing product in general. Tell us about it.
Actually, I had an interesting conversation 2 days ago in Lille at Aura Technology. There was a great event called the Le Sommet des Startups. And then I met Julian from the partnership of INRIA. He's the head of partnership in INRIA from Facebook. And he told me a very interesting story. He told me, we hired 2 data scientists, amazing, brilliant women, but black women. And one day they came to us and said, we cannot wash our hands. We said, what? They said, we cannot wash our hands in the toilets. And they said, oh, hold on, maybe there's a problem with the machine. So they went and checked, and it was working. And then they were checking it with their hands. It was not working. And they found out the machines, the soaps, they don't work with black skin. And they digged more, and they went to the fabricant company, and they found that the engineers working on those soaps, they had 0 black person in the engineering team. And so this is a perfect example how things can go wrong. And last week I was talking, for example, with a Nigerian friend of mine. We said, hey, let's take a funny picture with these masks and stuff on Facebook. And I was trying to take that with him, and the camera wasn't detecting his face. He was detecting all the time my face, and he suddenly cried and went. And so you see this, I think we have a data problem here, and we have the diversity problem, and we talk about women in AI because our goal is to close the gender gap in the field of artificial intelligence, but I think that diversity is wider. The engineers, they have to have different even backgrounds. They should have, for example, artists, philosophers, and engineers, developers, all together from different religions. So this is how we can create more, we can feed the system with more and generic data. And if there's any biases in the databases, we need to question them and fix them, because if we don't do that, these biases become the logic of the system, and AI can magnify the biases of its creators. That's what I believe, and I kind of, agree with Elon Musk and Nick Bostrom. They say that they can, create monsters. I think that AI can do good, but we should be aware of these biases that we have.
Isabelle, what is your experience on this question? Do you think that it's especially important in AI to foster diversity within designing teams?
I'm not completely sure. I completely agree that this is a very large problem, and not a specific one to AI. It's a problem of engineering, of people you see on TV shows, on everything, and it's not a specific problem of women. If you only have one group of people that have all been educated the same way and so on, with the same tradition, you don't have any new ideas coming from these people. In AI, I think a lot of people make a focus on it because of these data and what means choosing data. But if you have an algorithm that gives you an answer that is strange, because, for example, you ask him, I told you yesterday, for example, if you ask a machine learning algorithm to find in some way the 100 more influences people on the web, they will probably find, I don't know, 80% of men. I don't know, maybe 70, I don't know exactly. But it's a reality. It's because the web is like this. It's not the default in the algorithm. You just look at what happened. And if you want to introduce more constraints, you have to introduce them somehow by hand. For example, you can ask, I want an answer with 50% of women and 50% of men. But this is not the fault of the algorithm. So this is not only a problem of AI, this is a problem of the whole team, the project manager and everybody.
Let's be optimistic about the future. How can we foster more women in AI? What is the real pain points?
So I have many things to say to that, but I'll try to be short. I think my 15% women in computer science or in engineering school actually illustrates the fact that the problem starts very early. So I think in high school now it's getting better, but then in France, women don't think they can be engineers or computer scientists, and we need to address that question. I think it's a matter of education. It might be a matter of the system, which seems, if you want to be a top engineer, you have to go to an engineering school. To go to an engineering school, you have to go to class prépa, and class prépa are very unfriendly, competitive environments that are not suitable for women. So women censor themselves from doing those things, even if they want to become engineers. And then we have a problem of representation in general, where women don't think they can become engineers because engineers are men who code and eat pizza in basements, essentially.
Okay, thank you. Moojan?
I actually want to, it's very, very interesting what you say, Chloé, because I just want to ask you guys about something that might hurt you, but what's wrong with France and women engineers? Seriously. I'm from Iran. In my class, we had 70% women engineers. In total in Iran, we have 77% engineers, all women. And I don't know why, in my country, I wanted to become a mechanical engineering. My government forbade for women to become mechanical engineering. That's why I did industrial engineering. So I didn't have that much choices to do what I want. But in France, we have the liberty, but yet we have less than 15% women engineers. My co-founder at Women in AI, she's from École 42. And she tells me that not many women are there. And so this is something that I think this is the reason that we don't have enough women in AI too. And one of the things that we're doing at Women in AI is, first of all, raising awareness about why we need more women in AI, what are the risks, what are the dangers if you don't have enough women working in the engineering team. Yesterday I was talking with a friend of mine. He was saying that we have a rule for women recruitment in our AI company, but it doesn't matter if you recruit a communication manager, because the team, the engineering team, should have more diversity. And so one of the things that we do is that to raise awareness and talk and write about it. Second thing is education. So we need a technical background for women to integrate the companies who need their skills. So for that, we have a partnership with schools. And we are launching a program in January to have a program specific for women that they can learn and they can get hired afterwards in the different companies. Also, we have tailor-made workshops for companies, bigger companies. They want to have more women in AI in their teams. And for that, we want to, another thing that we're doing is with events. We're helping them to have more women speakers. Our goal is to give the stage to women and help them to speak out, be more visible, and create role models.
And having women on stage, not only talking about this problem.
Yeah, talking about new ideas.
Chloé, you also started an initiative. It's Women in Machine Learning and Data Science. Could you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Women in Machine Learning and Data Science is a group that was started in the US a few years ago, I think. So it started in the Bay Area, people organizing meetups for women in machine learning and data science to meet together. And so last April, I met a recruiter from Criteo, Caroline Xavier, who told me, look, we were at a conference, and she was like, look, it's only men. I'm Criteo, I only see men. I'm tired of this. What do we do about it? So we decided to create a Paris branch of Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, and to organize events every other month, hosted by companies, where we have people from academia and from industry. So speakers are women. We also organize roundtables where people can discuss either technical topics or careers topics. So we had our first event last week, and so we had a roundtable on deep learning, and we had a roundtable on imposter syndrome, and a roundtable on data visualization. So you can see all sorts of different things. So the point is to keep the women in machine learning and data science. Keep those who have an interest. There's lots of very young women there who have just finished their master's degree. Keep them in this ecosystem by showing them that they're not alone, that there's diversity, and finding tricks for helping each other dealing with the situations that can arise when you're one of the very few women in a group.
Thank you. Isabelle, have you seen initiative towards youngest girl within high schools that caught your attention?
There are a lot of initiatives from researchers, so I go back to the research part, going to schools, to high schools, to encourage people to go to science, even men and women, but especially from a lot of associations of mathematicians or computer scientists. So it's really a question of education, a question of image, because I think 10 years ago, young people were still thinking that all of you are strange people, computer scientists only working without any light and eating pizza. So this is changing little by little, and this is very important for women. But we have to be very careful when we put rules on the system that are trying to help women, because there are some drawbacks. So for example, in research, we have a competition to hire civil servants. This is a very huge process. And now there is a new rule. You need 40% of women in any jury. But we have only 20% of women researchers. This means then during 3 months, around spring, they have twice the administrative work compared to men, because they need to be present in all this stuff. And then they don't have any time to do their own research, to publish paper, and to become more famous. So we have to be very careful when putting noise in the system. There can be drawbacks.
False good ideas. Okay, it's time to wrap up. What could be your message to France towards that, Chloé?
So yeah, I've told her before, so that's why she's laughing. My message is that we should get our shit together. And really, I think to change things so that at an early age, women or girls see themselves, and people from all sorts of minorities actually see themselves being able to become scientists in general, and maybe AI researchers in particular. And we've talked about how to do this, and for me this goes not through like going to high school and so forth, although that's good, but through popular initiatives, like popular culture things. So we've talked about making a new Dora the Explorer, making it Dora as a scientist. Yeah, that's it.
Moojan, do you have a message? You are Iranian?
I do. I actually do. I love France. France gave me the opportunity to create my first company here. I got a passport talent. I got, a lot of opportunities here. I love this country, and I want this country to become the first country who changes the diversity problem. And I think that I would like to thank France ISAI, because this is a platform that we can add more diversity, and we can actually help each other to change something. So yeah, I think that we need definitely more of this, and we need definitely more women here.
Okay, Isabelle, do you want to add something?
I think we have very good mathematicians in France, very good computer scientists, but we don't have to forget that we have still a lot of things to do, especially for diversity.
Thank you very much.